I'm making a loaf of sourdough today, and the plan is to just use the sourdough starter only and no commercial yeast. So here's what the sourdough looks like, the starter. I've got it in the oven, just sort of warming up. I fed it last night and kept it nice and cool. I've stirred it a little bit, but you can see it's bubbling like crazy in there, so it's really active. It's a little bit more dilute than I have had it, but it has a good smell to it, and I'm just gonna leaven it with the loaf with just this starter. All right, here's what's going into it. Some good organic bread flour. That's my homemade starter. Some Himalayan sea salt, water, some dilute milk, 4 tablespoons of butter, and this is actually some honey with a little bit of Jeff Bevan's rosemary tree cut up in there, which I think just gives bread a delicious flavor. So that's it. So because I don't really have a recipe per se for this, and the starter was more dilute, you know, so I can't really measure it out, but this is just barely sticking to my hands right now, which is good. So I'm just trying to add a minimal amount of flour. Just to keep it off my hands. And I'm probably going to need this for about 10 minutes. So it's still sticking to my hands, but just a little tiniest little bit, which is tolerable, and I'll probably have to, yeah, it's absorbing more and more. It's sticking to the board. But, I mean, this is the part that I really like, really. It's the way that this bread, this dough, just sort of slowly transforms while you're kneading it. The texture changes, and it just turns into this real nice, springy, smooth feeling. Okay, I've been kneading for a few minutes, and it's not ready yet. It feels really nice though. It's starting to smooth out, and I just wanted to show you guys this. So, you know, this is what I'll look at. I don't know if this will come through on the camera, but see how this sort of tears? Yeah, it's starting to tear there. We don't want it to tear. I'll show you when it's done what it looks like, and it won't tear. All right. So I don't know, I've been maybe kneading this for 10 minutes or something, and the feel has slowly changed, and it's turned into this like springy, awesome feeling dough, which is so much of a good experience of making bread. But so I'm going to show you guys now. Last time it tore. Hopefully we'll be able to see this, but it's springy under my hands, but I'm slowly working my fingers back and forth, moving it apart, and see, you can see a window, and it's not tearing. That's where we're good. It finally tore there at the end, but it only tore after we saw that window. So just because I enjoy this, I'm gonna knead it for a couple of more minutes. I think most people think you can't really overhand knead dough. And I've just been adding a little bit of flour along the way until it barely just doesn't stick to my hands or this cutting board. So I think that'll be good. I'm just gonna pull it tight, stretch it over the top, form it up into a nice ball. Like that, and then we'll let it rise. There it is, greased in the oven. And I'm gonna turn the Tesla on now. So we're gonna set this thing for 60% humidity, and we'll proof it at 87 degrees for 60%, add 60% humidity until it takes to not fill that bowl, but come up towards the top. Well, I decided to take a little walk because I had an epiphany about my life and general health. But anyhow, that's a story for another day. The bread's looking good. It's rising. It's definitely coming up without any commercial yeast. So that's awesome. I'm going to walk for half an hour or something and enjoy the beautiful gray day here in southern Illinois, and check the bread later. All right, I went for a little walk, and excuse me, I don't know, maybe it's been 2 hours or 2.5 hours, but that's doubled. So I'm gonna put it in this pan and let it rise again for a final bake. A little bit of walnut oil in there. I've had these bread pans, I don't know, I got them from my mom. I've had them forever, as long as I can remember. They're like one of the things that perhaps had even in college that I still have. But so there's different ways they tell you to do this, but generally like fold it in thirds. This thing rose really well. Pinch it and then fold it over. Maybe one more fold. Pinch it. Sort of get it about right. Then do the pull, tighten it up. Then do the shake. And we'll see what we get. So we're going back in the oven. This is what we're looking at. This is going to be a big loaf. This thing's rising well too. You can see the humidity. There's some water. Yeah. Back there. This stove or oven's amazing. Still at 60% and set for 87 degrees. All right, the loaf has risen. It's almost to the level of the, right there. Almost to the level of the pan, which in general is good. So I'm gonna slice this down the middle a little bit and allow it to have room to rise. Yeah, and the Tesla's heating up. I'm gonna cook it at 60% humidity, 375 for 20 minutes. and then it's automatically going to switch down to dry cook, 0% humidity. So it's in. I'm gonna go visit my person at her place of work, and the Tesla will take care of the rest. All right, so I put a temperature probe in, you can see right there, and I turned the heat down to 350 because the loaf is getting pretty high and it was getting pretty brown, and you can see steam coming out as it cooks. And the probe, I generally cook it to about 195 degrees probe temp. So we're done. Oh yeah. There we go. Oh yeah, let's look at this thing. Look at it. That's a nice loaf. So there we go. Sounds right, nice and hollow sounding. And you know, I always like to put a little butter on my loaf. A little butter sink in, a little butter top. Not only does it taste good, it looks nice. Like a little glaze. There we go. Just a little glaze. You know, give yourself a little pat of butter. Just a little around the edge. Nothing excessive. All right. That'll just melt right on down in there. So, you know, I haven't tasted it obviously, but I'll say that while this thing was cooking, it rising and cooking, it definitely gave off an amazing sourdough aroma. And so I'm looking forward to trying a piece in maybe 45 minutes or so. But anyhow, this looks like a good loaf, and it's all leavened with sourdough starter and no commercial yeast. Whoop! Okay. It's been probably half an hour, and I'm ready to cut this puppy and give it a go. Oh, that's a good crust. Listen to that. I have to cut in that sideways to get the knife to bite on it. There we go. So I cut it a little early, which is not uncommon for me. It'll be fine. You can see the steam coming out of it maybe, but it's cut a little early. Oh, that's good. Oh my. Yeah, sourdough. Listen. You can hear it. Oh yeah. Yeah, so here's like the official taste test photo or video or whatever. This is actually really good. Tangy. Oh, the crust. The crust is amazing. It's just crisp. And the inside is like chewy bread. But really, with 2 cups of sourdough starter in there, it really has an all-out like delicious sourdough flavor. This is the first loaf of, I think, actual sourdough I've made. It's amazing. Yeah.